Oh. 30 seconds, it's all it takes. Now, the folks that just joined us are wondering if we're talking about a texting and driving commercial or just prom night.
Can I read this now?
Yes.
Welcome to Everyone Racers, a show designed for bagging on your friends and the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of announcer voice you're using this evening, what kind of a champ or track dog you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate. We even think you drifto hella flush peeps all right, as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussion, tips, tricks, news and notes from the world of low-dollar racing. And if you can handle it, Chrissy will give us just the tip. I didn't even read the new stuff. I just did it from memory.
Oh,
let me do it again. Whether
Whether
it's on the spot, we judge hella sweet or but terrible, or we're lucky enough that Chrissy gives us just the tip. We're sure you're going to giggle a little. Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm mental.
Hey, when we are Everyone Racers, thanks for coming back and listening to another Diamond installment of our podcast, episode
Absolutely.
60. What? I don't get the reference, Mental. What
It's
is
the
that?
Diamond anniversary. 60 is the Diamond anniversary.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
You guys
can
were
tell
like
that
looking for
every
some
week
sort
we
of
were-
weird sci-fi table of elements, and he actually went for something conventional.
See, if I had actually bothered to look at this before I read it, I might have changed it to another MGA episode of our podcast.
Oh, yeah.
later
You know, well,
tonight.
one
That was
day,
a 61.
Yeah,
we will
60.
actually like rehearse or plan together, and then where will you be, listeners?
You're funny. No, we
Where
won't.
do we start now? We're 60 episodes in. It's not like we should just pick that up.
Security codes.
Yeah. No.
Shut up.
So, anyway, why don't we make sure you get your bingo card from the show notes so you
If
can
you're
play
not
along at
driving.
home. That's true. Why don't we start with what we are working on? 'cause-
We're not going to say what's on some of the things on our bingo card? I think we
Well,
should.
you can?
promotes
Okay,
the
go
bingo
for it.
card.
All right, I'm
Go
down.
for it.
Sure.
Oh, I got to go first?
Yeah,
It's
I gotta-
your idea.
Mine disappeared. Hold on a second.
I've
Gotta
got,
reload. Must
I've-
reload.
Well, and
I've
I
already
think we
had
should just talk
free
about the
space.
corners. We should only talk about the corners, because otherwise
Yeah, don't give
we
it
will
away.
alter our conversations to try and...
corners. Good. All right, I've got the Ombre
Hombre.
Well, that's a good one.
and Wartburger as two of my corners. So,
Ooh.
All right. I got mine open now.
okay.
I have rookie team.
I got that.
Oh. I have wheel bearing.
I also have that.
I know.
On a corner mental? You have
Yes.
the same.
Wow.
Wow.
I have
And I've got another corner I'm going to get.
National F1 champions, which we probably won't talk about because we are no longer national F1 champions.
No. We've got another
Actually,
two
you
races
haven't
to
read the
continue to
notes,
cover.
and I think we might.
Great. And New Jersey sucks.
Okay.
That's what I.
That should be a free
Well,
space, too.
we know that. Yeah, really. Also, mental is drunk. That's a free space.
All right.
Anyway.
So everyone in the
What
show
you
notes,
working on,
there
Jeff?
is a
Come
link. Everyone open up your bingo card. If you get bingo in one row, one direction, or another, or a diagonal, take a snapshot, post it on our Facebook. What am I working on? I am. I could still smell the campfire on me. I spent the weekend at Cub Scout / Boy Scout camp, and I had a blast of a time. I actually spent the weekend with the Boy Scout troop that my son will join in March, most likely. And we spent it at my favorite camp when I was a kid. And it's down there in Maryland, right on the Chesapeake Bay. And it is absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, we did all kinds of stuff like whittling, and only one kid almost cut off his finger. And,
Cool.
you know, it was cold as heck.
That's
And,
what I was gonna ask.
yeah.
Oh, it was really cold here.
Yes, windy. Mental, you got something?
Who, when you were in Boy Scouts as a child, who was in Boy Scouts with you?
You're not allowed to lead the witness.
My brother and my uncle.
No one else?
Cool.
No
No one else. Nope. No one else I'm going to mention. So I also came home, and I this actually started before, but I have become the small motor killer. Anything with a small motor near me is going to die, and it's my fault. So as you remember, a couple weeks ago, I brought home a perfectly functional but revved too high Chinese version of the CT70.
You were like pretty excited about it.
Yeah, you showed us the carb, the Chinese carb.
I swapped the Chinese carb in, and now it won't start.
Did you keep it, though?
I mowed the grass about a weekend ago, like after we spoke last, and halfway through the lawnmower died.
Well, that seems like a bigger problem than your little.
I took the spark plug out of it, and it was covered in soot. I threw a new spark plug in, and it ran crappily long enough to finish the lawn and died again.
And now you put it away.
Put it away because it's the winter. Who cares? So
that's future Jeff's problem right there.
Exactly. So I have to make a decision. I have to fix my riding lawnmower, fix my hyper cool self-propelled push mower that I got from my mother-in-law, or my father's lawnmower, because that's what I borrowed when the other two were broken to mow my lawn and broke it. So
how is this even a discussion? Of course it's the riding mower. Duh.
You would think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be too much work.
Well,
No,
no matter what,
Like work.
if unsure, just put a Harbor Freight motor on it because they work great and they just bolt on.
That's
The motor actually isn't the problem. I blew the shaft on the deck.
Yeah, you
And
did.
only ejected. Is fellatio?
That's going in the corner next time. Yeah.
Yes. No.
Double entendre.
So only one blade spins at the proper speed. So you run for like a minute or so, and then clang because the blades are hitting each other. It's pretty disastrous. Anyway, that's it. What you working on, Mental?
So I was actually spent last weekend at Extreme Experience, which was great over the Veterans Day weekend. Took 4 of our high performing cadets, had an all lady support staff this time, and they were all about it. So
I saw a picture of
What
your
does that
cadets.
mean? What does that mean that you have lady support?
So the first time we did it, we took 2 ladies and 2 gentlemen. The last time it just kind of worked out. It was all 4 guys. And this time, as we announced that we would be doing the Extreme Experience weekend, my cadet deputy commander said, well, you owe me an all-girl team because you took all guys last time. And I said, fine, you put it together and don't bring me any scrubs. I want and she did. She put together a team of high performers. So we went out there with 4 lady cadets, and they went out there with the single goal of outdoing the guys. And they did.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy because they're lazy teenagers. I mean,
pretty much. One of them worked herself into a pretty good cold, and it was. I know it's not your level of cold, but it was brutally cold down there this weekend.
yeah, like what, 50?
No. We had a couple of times where he had to delay our track because the track temperatures were too cold. But the Porsche manual tells you not to operate it in the pilot cups below, I want to say 40, and we did.
Yeah. So, Mental, what branch of the armed forces are these kids likely to end up in?
Proper question. Next.
I'm sorry, Mental, what were you doing while you were there? What was the
Do not
activity?
answer these questions. You talk about what you were doing, what you're working on.
I came in second.
That's not on my card.
Damn it.
On my card.
Will you please talk about your wreaths?
Yes. So we also now I'm going to shamelessly use the pod to talk about our big fundraiser we do every year is Wreaths Across America, and you will actually see this with the Civil Air Patrol, Young Marines, and junior ROTC units, and it is exactly what it sounds like. On December 16th at national cemeteries all across the United States, young people from all these organizations, including the Boy Scouts, will go and place wreaths on the grave sites of those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. And a company sells these. Now, if we sell them off of our webpage, we get $5 for every wreath that is sponsored. Now, to make this clear, folks, if you decide to do this, you're not getting a Christmas wreath sent to you. You are sponsoring a wreath that will be laid on a gravestone of a fallen hero in a national cemetery. And we're going to have the link to my high school, GA 958, on the show notes. And if you want to go through there and donate one of those wreaths, we will be quite appreciative, and we will be posting pictures of the cadets on December 16th, as I do every year. It's actually been a huge fundraiser. I've got a lot of old retired friends and some very successful friends. Jerry Ringel sponsored 10 of them last year. It was just fantastic. So if you can find it in your heart to peruse that link and share that link, we'd appreciate it.
That's cool. I'm not aware of the program. I will have to introduce it to my Cub Scouts.
Hey,
so when you post that link, I will put it up there.
Absolutely. And it is down at the bottom. And then there's the minor issue of the weather this week. So on Monday was Veterans Day.
Wait, it's not like completely beautiful like it is always that you always say it is?
Well, it's 50 degrees and windy.
So on Monday was Veterans Day. We record this on a Wednesday, and we had several color guards that we were posting at different elementary schools. And I had to bring the supplies, the flags, the flag stands, and the ceremonial rifles to the elementary school, which is, as it turns out, impossible to do on a Honda VFR.
Yeah.
Particularly when it's raining.
Well, one at a time.
Oh. If you had a load of rifles at a VFR, you get down the highway with no one bothering you.
That is true. I probably wouldn't have so much of a...
Noted.
Noted.
It's Georgia. It's probably allowed.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be like, hell yeah!
They sell a gun rack. Hey, is that a Springfield 1918? Woo! So after renting a car this weekend for Extreme Experience, I took the car back, and I was going to borrow the truck, Vicky's truck, and she actually had stuff to do. So I drove the RV, and it was raining so hard when I came home that I just drove the RV home. And Tuesday, it was 38 degrees and raining. So I drove the RV. Well, it's already at school, so I might as well drive. So I've been commuting in the RV every day this week.
That is the most redneck thing I think I've ever heard in the pantheon of redneck.
And that's
wait till we get to news and notes, because it's
the high school teacher showing up in the RV every day. Hey, kids.
Yeah, you don't live there.
Because no one notices.
Excuse me, Mr.
No
Mental,
one
please
even
call
paid
on me.
attention.
Excuse me, Mr. Mental, can you call on me in the front row of your classroom?
Yeah.
Are you homeless? Are you a homeless vet? Are you living in your RV in the high school parking lot? Don't lie to me. Every time I come or leave, your RV is there. By the way, I've checked off on my sheet Extreme Experience, and I also believe some of you may have someone complains about the weather. Chris,
nope, didn't complain. I made a safety decision.
Uh-huh. Yep. Miss Mental lies on this?
Oh.
Okay. I've been working on the kitchen all of the time. Took Friday off.
Circle gets a square. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, I got a corner on that.
That's what it is. Is what it is. Yeah, working in the kitchen, made great progress. I got all the old counter cabinets out and either broken up or put down in the basement for basement cabinets now. Got all of the linoleum floor and the 12 million staples that go along with it pulled out. We got all the bamboo hardwood put in for the whole first floor with about 6 inches of wood to spare. And
literally we had 6 inches of bamboo flooring.
I was hoping you were going to say we had 6 inches of wood.
No, no, I didn't.
Double entendre needs to get added on. All right.
No,
and,
I mean that's not a whole lot of.
All the other base cabinets are in and hooked to each other and hooked to the wall and leveled and etc. And I've made some plywood temporary countertops, and I'm putting in the appliances temporarily because we got to get the countertop people are coming for a template, and then we have a couple weeks to wait until they make our quartz countertops. So
you've been doing a great job of putting most things in, but what don't we have?
A sink.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's kind of hard to live without a sink. I made
the bathroom sink. It's great.
I made yogurt in our tub last night.
Not like a tub full of yogurt, but
we've already mentioned that I like throwing turkeys in the shower.
Yeah,
she's kind of the same thing. Who needs bathtub gin when you have bathtub yogurt?
Bathtub yogurt, and honestly, that sounds like something that my kids would get busted for doing.
Maybe so.
Dude, bro, her parents weren't home. We totally made bathtub yogurt.
It was just not that way, though.
You know, I have a great yogurt recipe that you two will never understand. You just lose the sippy cup full of milk under the couch for a couple weeks. Bam, yogurt.
I was like half waiting for you to get the recipe. I don't know why, but
I
I
thought he was going to say, I go to the store.
I
Buy it.
I said make yogurt.
Yeah,
okay.
Chris, I'm
All right.
sorry I wasn't able to help you out there.
Seriously.
Cub Scout camp. Sorry.
that's okay. No worries. All right, that's all. That's all I've been doing. That and working.
I
Chrissy.
have been helping Chris with the said
There you
kitchen.
go.
He's doing a lot more, but I have been doing it, and it's great. I've been prepping for Thanksgiving, honeymoon in Cancun, then Atlanta race. Only a few days in between all of those, and that's in the next couple weeks. That's what I've been doing. What is the deal with the paperwork?
Wait,
Citroen.
what kind of
It's the
paperwork?
Citroen paperwork.
Everyone can check that off the list.
I don't have that one. Damn.
I do.
I've got two off of that one.
This is a bit of a corked bat because I let it slip after the podcast last
That's
week.
why I asked. That's why I'm asking.
It has been mailed to the state of New Jersey.
Yay! Did you make copies first?
Of course, yes.
Did you put
I
a
have
return
copies.
receipt on it?
Yes, it has arrived actually.
I'm really
Yay!
happy this is all going well, but I'm going to miss the meme war. I'm going to miss
Don't
just
worry.
the
Don't
truly
worry. We
epic
now-
text.
Listeners
there
don't
is
know about the meme war.
nothing sure until they return it. Because
Sure.
remember, this is the second time I've sent it in. They rejected it last time.
And for those out there who are listening, I'm going to tell you right now, the list of people you don't want to ever start a meme war with is like Kevin Smith, John Oliver, and Chrissy.
And Wendy's, by the way.
Well, no, Wendy's got strong
Wendy's
Twitter
is
game.
Twitter war, you're
Yeah,
right.
and they got strong Twitter game. But Chrissy is like a
What?
sniper.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's,
Chrissy.
Christmas got someone makes fun of social media. Let's move on. News and notes time.
News and
Mental, first story.
notes. All right, so we're all fans of Roadkill, and I imagine a lot of our listeners are fans of Roadkill. It's a great show until Motor Trend started trying to charge me for it, and they can get bent. But they have one of their more famous trucks is the Mazdarati, and it is a Mazda pickup truck with a 455 volts will be on the back of it through a boat transaxle. And they'd filmed an episode where they've been trying for a year to get this thing into 10 seconds on the quarter mile, blew the transmission, blew the engine, had it on the trailer, and someone stole it. Arguably the most famous Mazda pickup truck in the United States, and some moron stole it. And the point that they made on the Instagram is they had to work at this. They had to unhook it, push it off the trailer, and then push it onto a new trailer because it's a mobile. But we've got the link in our show notes. The dumbest thieves in the world have stolen the Mazdarati with a blown engine and a blown transmission.
Not only that, but it's like out of all of the roadkill cars on the planet, that one is like the most terrible.
I don't know. The Gremlin's not great.
It's really worth the least compared to a lot of their other.
That
That
is
is true.
Yeah.
That is it is
Nerd.
Really
the most
no money
worthless
in it.
one. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's possible you've probably seen the pictures on the internet of the melted and scorched, used to be white Toyota Tundra. It's been all over social media. A registered nurse, or I don't know what kind of nurse he is, a nurse named Alan Pierce from Paradise, California. It was his truck, and he used it to, him and his coworkers rescued a bunch of their patients from their critical care facility out there somewhere near Paradise, California. And he posted a picture on his Twitter or Instagram. I'm not really sure where it started, but it has now been on everything, basically saying, hashtag, here's your Toyota commercial. My truck still runs. It's great. Toyota's rule. And much to
Can't
everyone's
argue.
surprise, to everyone's surprise, Toyota's official account tweeted right back at him and said, hey, good job. Don't worry about the truck. You get a new one. Contact us. So they're going to buy him a new Tundra.
Props to Toyota.
Good on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Cool.
I'll take the burnt one. Send it my way.
It
I
looks
think
pretty
that-
awesome. It's
I think
like
it's going in their
looks like a
museum, probably.
marshmallow. Yeah, it like is white, but it has like the perfect
burnt.
gradient. But it has
Yeah.
like the perfect gradient like down the doors of the exact part of the marshmallow that you would like. I was impressed.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sure
good-
you'll
good
see
for
it.
the- but-
I'm sure you'll see it next year at SEMA in the Toyota.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. And that
All right.
that is off. Speaking of folks making horrible sacrifices, this past weekend, the Lemons was at the Mercedes Sugarland Ranch in Houston with a true 24 Yamaha Stuntin' and Splodin' soiree. How did we do for our picks? And turns out we'd gotten pretty good at this, but this weekend,
No, we haven't.
No, this
No.
weekend may have been our worst picks ever.
So let's we don't have to necessarily call out the people that did really, really terribly. Just for good form. But hey, Escape Velocity Racing, their dart, they came in 9th in C. Well done. And there was a cool thing where a different team brought a different Dodge dart and painted it in Soviet Russian missile space program. And so the two of them would race, and it would do.
And the pictures of them duking
quake.
it in the track, it was epic.
So well done there. Property devaluation didn't do so well. Team Blue Goose, hey, they did well. They did 3rd overall in that Audi. I don't know how the hell they keep that damn thing together. And hey, Saabs of Anarchy, they usually run up in the Northeast. They made the trip down there with that Saab 9000. So they wore their tweed jackets, as they're all apparently all college professors racing a Saab 9000. And they had a Class B win. So welcome to A. That's up.
So we had an extended conversation with those guys. They had thought we were going to be down there, and they were getting hold of us on the Instagram. And then afterwards,
who's we?
They thought the four of us were actually. They said, "What's Chrissy driving this weekend?" And I think they thought you were going to be down there. But we ended up having an extended. And I said, "Well, tell me how your weekend went when you guys get back." They went down there with no plan, and they did mention, we always run up in the Northeast. We just kind of went down there with, we'll drive for 24 hours. How bad can it be? They were really worried about their brakes and tires, but as a team, they came down together and they figured it out, and they really worked to conserve the car. They've been in first before up in New Hampshire or in New Jersey last year. They were first in B, but according to them, stepped on their wieners, and that cost them. Mm-hmm. But this time around, ran a good, solid, conservative race. Had a little bit of contact, wasn't their fault, and car got towed off the track, including a visit to the penalty box. They were back on track in 15 minutes, and that was the only hurdle they had there. But they worked hard, they ran clean, and congrats to them, Jeff.
Wow, cool.
Anybody know what their overall win placement was?
Oh no, I had it, and
I'm just interested in a true 24. Like, we know that the B class winners tend to be almost top 5, between 5 and 10 usually.
This time they weren't. Now, because I did the numbers on that one from the MyLap site, and they were not. Whoever classed them did a really rocking solid job. I think it was Sanjeev did most of the classing down there, and top 6 or 7 were A.
No, they were top 7. I just opened on Race Monitor.
They were the 7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that kind of holds. If you want to win B, you got to be solidly in the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Even in a longer race.
Actually, the second in B is also in the top 10.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, well on them in a Saab 9000. I love the 3 of them that I have had. They've been great cars. Too bad they don't exist anymore, pretty much.
I liked it better when they were the biker theme. I thought that was cooler than the tweed jackets. But
interrupting.
Well, no, I don't think they actually have tweed jackets. I think that's just my joke of Saab 9000.
You're right, Chrissy.
You're absolutely right.
Is it an option?
I thought they changed everything.
Skip you.
Go, Chrissy, you're up.
If interrupting Chrissy is on your card,
no, only skipping. Keep going.
Interrupting didn't work either. Okay, so the funny, I didn't actually check mine, but what did you say? Knock, knock.
Knock, knock.
Now, who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Moo. So all of the ones I picked, I only picked because they were funny names or something. They were all did terribly. No, Monica, and I didn't remember the reference last time. I just opened it. Now I remember. The 1996 Integra. They were 14th overall. That was the best pick over that I have. Escape Velocity Racing with their 2459, some old kind of hoopty 84th overall, which that's pretty awesome that they don't even list what their car is. Shenaniganizers in their Honda Accord 56th overall. D's Nuts in their MR2 20th overall. Congrats to the Hungry Pillagers for their C-Class win. In a 99 Buick LeSabre, welcome to, you're in a LeSabre, you're probably staying in C. Call the loophole.
So, tetanus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 cars running under the tetanus banner, trying really hard to make sure they win the national effing champions from us this year. Please check that off your card if you have it.
I'm doing terribly.
Their 300ZX naturally aspirated, not a turbo one, finished 19th overall, and that was the highest finish on the team. One of their 944s finished 33rd. The other one was 52. They have an E30 that was 53rd.
Boring.
The other non-puff 944. What was that? What was that? Was that a 968 or whatever?
986. They painted it. They call it El Blanco. It's the white one.
You sure it wasn't a 911?
Yeah.
Either way, it was
It
64th.
wasn't.
Their Nissan 240, which has really done very well in the Northeast, was 70th. 70th. The Neon was
done broke.
Yeah, that was the Takata Nissan
Yeah.
240.
That was the one that went into the wall at Barber and it blew up at NOLA.
Yeah. And the Neon, they have a Neon. It was 79th, and they have another 240Z, which I don't know what that one looks like, but that one was 98th.
That's the yellow and white one. That's Troy's car that almost beat us at Road Atlanta.
No,
But
I thought that was that was the one that came in 70th.
No.
No,
That's a Nissan 240, not a 240Z.
240 SX, Jeff.
What he says.
But the Takata one is also yellow and white.
No,
The Takata one is not a Z. It's just a
It's
Nissan
240.
240.
Yeah. But it's the 240Z. Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, because that's when our cars were battling. It was hang on. It was which one of ours was doing really well at Atlanta until
I believe it was the RX-7. So, Black Betty, go ahead and check it off your list.
Yay.
In contrast, the Ginger Race team took 2nd and 6th. So there was a team with 2 cars that did very well.
Oh no, they had 6 cars, but
they had 6 cars also.
They brought it hard.
Wow,
All
we got to work hard.
people are onto our formula.
Soon there will only be like 7 race teams.
I was just thinking about tetanus and thinking about how much they were trying. This is a bad race to have 8 cars to try to win anything, or just overnight to have this many problems, to have this many cars. Is just, we've run a lot of cars on our team, and sometimes it's really hard. This sucks even more when you're overnight.
And I think they do it just for mutual support, because I've seen their operation and they'll circle the RVs, and it's a lot of, they do the community food thing, and it also, there's always kind of a built-in babysitter around there because there's someone in the pits. So I don't know. I mean, I think they are copying the formula to a degree, but I also think it's just, let's just get everyone together so we can kind of bring less stuff.
Yeah.
Also, they had IOE. They got IOE in the. You didn't put any of the
no, I didn't.
other awards.
I don't know. You've got them, Chrissy.
Anton got IOE.
I thought they ran.
The Oldsmobile.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they were running them under the same name. I thought it was Onslaught Tetanus, and they were running that.
No. It was Onset that got it, and they just gave Mary helped out a lot, so they gave her a patch and put her on the list.
I understand. Sorry.
But it was, why you ruin Classic?
Yeah, actually, I think it is Anton's 4th IOE this year.
It is. That's what he said on the internet.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 in a year. That's crazy.
That's impressive. All right, good job. So as we were going to mention there, I had some of my people down there. So Jerry and the boys in the 91 Ford T-Bird, yeah, she didn't do too well. They got 85th overall. Then there was Whiskey Throttle in their 1983 GMC El Caballero. Yeah, them Nitro Circus boys, they got 50th overall after they made some contact with Apocalyptic Racing. We got some pictures of that, and it showed up on there. Even one with Travis doing the apology hands. And Mullet Motorsports in their 83 El Can Man Yo, they also got 59th overall. Jeff?
Mental. Shut
you at home.
Shut up, Mental.
This is Mental's actual voice.
At least while he lives in Georgia.
Go, Chris.
Yes, you're up. I'm up. Oh, I am up. Oh,
Speaking of cars that aren't trucks.
What? Sure. Extreme experience puts you in the driver's seat of some of the world's best supercars at over 20 racetracks in America and Canada with no speed limits, no shifting restrictions, and no governors. Head to xxp.com, and especially if you have it on your bingo card, check it off now, to choose on your supercar, find a racetrack near you, and start making a story of your own. 7 models of exotic cars, 20-plus tracks, and year-round location in NOLA. Pro instructors, like a bunch of us, in the car with you and helping you explore the limits and learn the driving line. Save 25% when you use the Everyone Racers at xxp.com. Book today. Extreme experience. Check it off. It's your turn.
So this weekend we did do the Veterans Day weekend, had a lot of great folks come out and support us, congratulated our cadets, had a great time, had a lot of folks, and some of them actually recognized me from the podcast. And the one person I was really hoping would show up, but I understand why she didn't, because I would have said hello to her, Chrissy's mom. Hi, Chrissy's mom.
I would have been a Shrek. Hi, Chris's mom.
So don't forget, Lucky Dog Racing has their 2019, I almost said 2019 schedule online. Their races fill quickly. Most of the good ones are filled. I will mention that the January Laguna Seca race is still not posted with a confirmed date, so that has not yet sold out. AER at Summit Point is also coming up this weekend. There is 8 inches of snow coming tomorrow night, rain on Friday, so it's going to be a sloppy hecka mess. I'll actually be up in North Jersey in the mountains at another camping trip, so I am not looking forward to the winter either.
Now, listener feedback, we've had some show ideas pop up. One of them is like how to not step on your crank. Another one is just keep it simple. Principle.
Don't drive a DSM. That's how.
Don't drive it. Yeah, don't drive a DSM. How to keep it simple. Some night racing stuff, and we also do want to talk about entry level rally racing. All of these are great ideas, and please, folks, keep sending them to us on the Facebook, on our Everyone Racers page, because we are building our 2019 show schedule now, and we really appreciate everything you guys are sending us.
Because we sure as hell are running out of ideas.
Yeah, we're just going to keep coming up with stupid crap unless you tell us.
And
speaking of stupid crap,
planned so well.
Topic time. Mental, what are we talking about?
Wow.
Fuel.
Oh,
We're
Chris,
talking about fuel. We're talking about fuel cells, in fact, because most of us run production-based auto racing. Most of the classes, a stock fuel tank, it's all right. It meets your safety requirements because if it was good enough for the OE, it's good enough for racing. And in mechanical requirements, and it fits well, it's easy. That's no problem. It's easy button. But as we get faster, as we progress, you might consider installing a fuel cell in your race car, either for safety or for what most of us do, for additional fuel capacity. And fuel cells really have tremendous differences from very safe, well-designed systems that do a wonderful job and give you great capacity and will not blow up, to basically a big bucket of gas sitting next to like a Durbo Derby. They just got hose sticking in the lawnmower tank. It's about as good as it gets.
The outboard tank, usually, right? Gotta squeeze the bulb a couple times.
Nice.
Hey, I have definitely not had a soda bottle filled with fuel just stuck higher than the engine. Definitely not. So, yeah. So anyway, they're really complicated to do these right, and they're more expensive than you think they will be. So tonight we're gonna talk about safety. We're gonna talk about the enclosures that might be required, the series rules, limitations, and what you need to do to actually install them safely and smartly. So let's turn to our resident safety expert, Chrissy. What's
And
going
I'm
on?
going to talk about safety.
Hang on a second. I gotta get my business card. Yeah.
It was on my card too. I was like, yes, I know I'm going to talk about safety. Yes. Okay. So I'm talking about safety, but I'm also just going to do some basics too. So, all right. So safety. Do you remember episode 25? Of course you don't. If you did, don't go back to listen to it. Fire's bad. Don't burn. Okay. So we're going to talk safety fuel cells. With anything, there's levels of good or safe for fuel cells. We're going to start with the basics. So you can get a kind that is just the plastic with fittings, or you can get just metal with fittings, or both. And these are so I think they're only acceptable in roundy rounds. That's where you usually typically get those things. Go ahead.
And drag racing. Drag racing typically uses those little tiny weeny cells that don't have bladders in them.
Okay, good. So the next tier is having a metal box with a detachable, deformable bladder inside, and then added foam, and that keeps it from the fuel sloshing around all over the place. Fuel cells can be verified by fuel cells can be verified by a governing body like FIA. Some sanctioning bodies require this, so double check what your sanctioning body requires, but Mental's going to tell you a little bit more of that in a little bit. There may or may not be changes to the actual box, so they might have to be a clarification. Usually, any sanctioning body is going to be usually pretty good about telling you what they need for this, because this is one of those things that's just going to either axe you right out if you don't have the right things for them. So, yes, Chris.
and you can't usually tell how old the fuel cell is because they age out. So most of them will want to see the receipt for when it's purchased to prove that it's still within FIA time frame, which is 5 years. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, good. No problem. Thank you. Okay, so lastly, it depends on what kind of cell you're using in the car you're putting in, but you need to have a barrier between the driver and the fuel cell. And if you have a trunk and or there's a metal piece between the cell and the driver, so if your trunk is actually a full piece of metal, then it should be good. If you're having a vehicle like the Ombre and you have a cab, you can put it outside the cab and it's going to act as a barrier. So just make sure you have a barrier between you, the driver, and the fuel. If not, you're going to make a barrier. So you have to make a metal box around the cell, and we've made them with a metal clothes dryer, or you can make them with a fancy box. You have to look at them often, so you might want to make it look nice. Oh, also, I forgot that you have to make sure that it closes, correct? You have to have some kind of closure to make sure that it's actually like some kind of latch or something little.
That's why the front of a dryer or washer is typically a nice idea, because it already has a hinge, it's already metal, and sometimes they even have a little clasp on it.
Yes.
The sensory salt guys in Texas were famous for using those.
Yes. And we've run with things like that. And then lastly, make sure your cell is away from heat source like exhaust. Fire's bad. That's what I got. I talked about safety.
Bam! Check it off your list. Mental, what do you got? Tell us about those other series out there.
As Chris mentioned, they are a substantial investment, especially in entry-level endurance racing. Now, are they worth it? By and large, I think most of us would agree that they are. But if you're going to invest this kind of money, make sure you understand the rules before you spend all this money and turned out that you just made your car illegal. Taken from the Lucky Dog site, I really like this quote as it applies to racing. You learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist. And that's a Picasso quote. Now, as Jeff learned last month, in Lemons, they have a zero fuel leak policy like most of these series. But in Lemons, if you get stopped twice for a fuel leak, you're done for the weekend. Period. Dot. Lemons specifies, as Chrissy started to divide in the safety section, that a real fuel cell has a separate metal case, an internal deformable fuel vessel, splash and leak fighting foam filler, and purpose-built fittings and mounting. Everything else is just another gas tank and frequently less safe than stock. Now, Jeff's going to talk about bulkheads and those requirements as we get to him in a minute, but keep in mind, Lemons also restricts fuel cells to a 24-gallon max. Closely related, even though they would argue that they're not, is Champ Car. Now, everyone else, they've got very similar safety rules regarding proper fuel cells versus the cheap plastic, as Chris called them, bags of gas, or the Coke cans with a bottle. But they will only allow a deviation of plus or 2 gallons from the stock fuel tank. Lucky Dog, they run older cars, but they also come with, in addition to all the other safety regulations you'll see in the other series, they limit to 24 gallons as well. Now, American Endurance Racing, they don't have a size restriction, but they specifically mention that any fuel cells got to meet the FIA FT3 standards. Now, FYI, ATL sells an FIA-certified 33-gallon sprint car and a 32-gallon top-loader fuel cell, which
That's a lot of letters.
Yeah, it is, but it's a lot of gas, too. You could go forever, except AER has mandatory number of pit stops. They've got a specific formula according to the hours of races on that one and a minimum time for each pit stop, so you really don't save anything by investing in a huge gas tank much on that one. WRL...
Except for weight.
Except for weight, exactly.
Yeah, you have a lot more weight.
You have a lot more mass, yes. WRL specifies that fuel capacity must be within 15% of the original equipment manufacturer's capacity, but you are allowed to exceed that if you're willing to accept a class change. Fuel cells have to be designed for automotive use, so again, no plastic bags of gas. Consists of a deformable bladder or rotary molded plastic vessel encased in a metallic can and be manufactured by, and they specify, ATL, FuelSafe, JAZ, or other recognized manufacturers approved by the World Racing League.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you can't just weld up a tank on your own and call it good.
But there are custom tank manufacturers. There's one down in Savannah, Georgia, and there's one in Texas that do make racing applications, but you're going to have to submit that tank to them and get it approved. In their 2019 rules draft, WRL's added that a car equipped with a fuel cell will be clearly marked with 3-inch or taller numbers near the fuel port in its WRL legal capacity for both the stewards and the competitors to monitor volume during refueling. I suspect that is related to that Road Atlanta incident this year. And they add, quote, "At no time during the race may the total fuel volume exceed the listed capacity on the disclosure worksheet." So you can cheat, but if they bust you, don't whine about it. We've talked about this before. We're not just a lemon series. The Sports Car Club of America has introduced that bracket endurance racing series, and basically it's to give some of their older race cars a new lease on life. So they're going to default to the rules of the individual classifications that those cars are coming from. But their fuel cell regulations clearly specify FIA FT3 or higher, and additionally to the SFI 28.3 specifications. And it doesn't include a size restriction except where the production class itself mentions it. And finally, for the NASA endurance racings, they restrict fuel cells to the OEM sizes or 18 gallons, whichever is less, because we do know that there's what's the Squirt Corona's Mercedes running, because it's got an OEM tank in it and it's bigger than the 24 gallons, but it's legal.
The W124s had an optional tank of up to 90 liters, which I don't know how many liters 90 is and how many gallons that is. But
Alexa, what's 90?
I don't understand, Jeff. What are you asking?
But so they're running the stock tank, and that's the reason why they're still running that stock tank, is it does kind of give them a little bit of a competitive advantage as that car gets kind of long in the tooth. It's still well driven. Jeff?
23.775 U.S. liquid gallons. Holy cow.
It's the extended range tank on those W124s. You get that plus the diesel, and you're never stopping for gas.
Ever.
Well, that's great unless you have to, like, by AER rules.
Yeah.
So, Chris is going to talk about, like, how you actually have to get the fuel from the tank to the motor a little bit, a few other things, but I'm going to talk about, like, where to put it. You see, you got this car, and now you got this box. How are you going to make them together? So, Lemons has a great guideline.
I don't know how this works.
I wouldn't call it a rule, but it basically
were they robot arms?
There was robot arms. Mental did robot arms, everyone. So Lemons rule says, basically, put them where they won't get hit or hit the ground if you go off track. Not too close to the corners, not too low. 3 basic understandings. Build a cage around it. Move it to the middle. Or keep it behind sturdy OE crash structures and bumpers. Those are all just great guidelines when you're trying to figure out where you're going to put your cell. So for those of you who have never seen a cell, yeah, they're kind of square. And they all kind of have a lip around them, so they fit in like the sink that Chrissy doesn't have in her kitchen remodel right now.
The sink is sitting in the hole in the plywood countertop. I just can't.
If I turn it on,
can't hook it up.
Right.
So yeah, they basically sit down. They have a lip around the outside, and they're kind of designed to hang below some sort of structure. So we've already talked about enclosures, making sure they're enclosed behind a firewall or a bulkhead. But if you're putting it in a hatchback or a wagon, or you're putting it like through the floor, you're still going to have to build that box around it. So just, think about all of these things on where you're figuring it out. So a real metal encased FIA approved cell and all FAA compliant fittings need to be used if you can't get it 100% separated from that driver. And depending on your rules, as we just heard, it may still fail. So anyway, all of these metal boxes and firewalls, they have to include a way for you to get to the filter, and all the vents and things need to be inside because, if you build a great firewall and then you cut a hole in it for the vent to come out, you no longer have a firewall.
Or to actually put gas in it,
Oh, yeah,
that,
you don't
that
have
little
a
thing
little,
like that.
have a little hatch. Chrissy already mentioned the dryer thing. Perfect way. It's got a big door. It's got probably room under it. So, we've custom made all of ours, including out of some wonderful pre-bent metal I bought at the local salvage yard for like pennies a pound. So you got to look around. You got to figure out what you got. But just remember all of the straps, the vents, the filling options. You have to plan that out. most people are going to build the cage around them, whether it's in a hole or inside the trunk or in the hatchback or in the center of the car. Most people are building cages surrounding them. This is a separate from the roll cage. Most people use like a standard 1-inch square tube, seems to be very common. But you need to think weight placement. You need to think about the crumple zones. Obviously low and exposed, like out the back of the trunk, is good for weight. But do you really want it there? Even if it's legal, this is a very expensive piece of your race car. And if it gets damaged, it is going to be thrown out of the race. Go ahead, Chris, you got something?
Yeah, this is why in the Civic, the easier spot might have been behind the suspension control arm points, right by the back bumper. But we said, no, not going to put it there. We put it up in front of the suspension control arm points, like where the back seat used to be, to get it in like the middle of the car, as safest spot we could possibly put it to keep it away from things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mental.
Well, and now, and additionally, we've been at Tech when folks have come in there with the standard NASA style low out of the trunk, with the 1-inch square tubing all around it, and we've watched John Pagel say, I want a set of rails or supports running there in case a car runs up underneath it, and I want the tank to get lifted rather than punctured.
Yeah, absolutely. Building extra crash structure behind it is definitely one of the things they mention. But I want to talk about young Chris. Check that off your list if you want to. Chris Egan and his Saab. Anybody know what year that thing is?
It's like an 04.
It's like an 04, 05, 95 wagon.
270,000 miles on it.
So he can build great. He builds great cars. He welds great. Everything is really good about what he does. And the only place he could put that cell was between the axle and the rear bumper. And he put it low and it stuck out and you could see it below the rear bumper, and he took a hit. He took a rather large hit in the bumper, and the car slid under and tagged the corner of his cell. But I actually talked to him before the show and asked him about his materials and asked him what happened. So he used 1-inch square. He used 125 wall thickness for the cage around the tank. He has a way beefier lid than we do. He built an entire cage that even went around the top. So basically, we use straps. Metal strapping.
Flat bar stock.
Yeah, flat bar stock. Probably like inch and a half, Chris.
Yeah, it's like an inch wide, 1/8 inch thick.
Yeah, we have heavy, metal strapping up there. But he used the tubing all around all sides, and then he connected it to the car with .063 1-inch square tubing.
Ooh.
And he did that on purpose because he wanted it to deform out of the car and flex when it got hit. So when he got hit in the rear bumper and it tagged the corner, it basically, just like John Pagel said, it lifted up instead of getting punctured. So it did not deform the cage around the box. It did not deform the metal itself that was holding, that is the fuel cell. And he was able to basically cut out the support structure and build a new support structure and get back on track the same day. Interesting design. Chris?
Well, it's important to mount it to something secure too. Like maybe talk about maybe what you should and should not mount it to in the back of the car.
Yeah, obviously you should mount it to, if it's a unibody car and you don't have a frame, you need to make sure that there are spreader plates and everything else, just like you would build your roll cage. If you have a frame, getting it to the frame with good welds is going to be the way to go. I am a big proponent of making sure that it is well within the crash structure and, it's belts and suspenders. Making sure that there is added crash structure, either with some heavy tube or whatever inside that crumple zone.
It's also key that you don't attach it to the roll cage. It needs to be a separate.
Oh yeah, I
design,
said separate roll
separate
cage.
thing.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Cool.
Sorry,
and if it's not a street car, there's no need for Gorilla Tape wrapped around a ratchet strap to hold it in place either.
No, that's only good in the back of your pickup.
Or your Saab when it falls out in the middle of wherever the hell we were. Hey,
yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Chrissy can send me all the pictures. I won't post them because I didn't ask for his permission to do that, and it was kind of large files. So yeah, but I looked at the design. It was really an excellent design where it was almost like a monocoque, like the cell was in a monocoque that was deformable through the crash structure to move, not get deformed.
And I'm sure for a small consulting fee, Chris Egan would be more than happy to look at your design. We'll get you his email if you're interested.
He's signing up for something he doesn't do.
Oh no! If you pay him enough, he will absolutely.
Sure.
And so
he's very into his 3D printer right now. Every post on Facebook is like, if I have a heated bed with a blah 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 filament, how come I'm getting? I don't know what's going on. My brother answers something.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. Like they just start talking like the super smart 95-pound craniums that they have.
Yeah. So Jeff, tell us a little bit about perhaps the brief story of why we're doing this episode now. What brought this whole thing up?
So we decided that we're going to do this research because coming up this weekend, as you all heard last week, my embarrassing moment of the slightly altered stock fuel system in the Ombre is no longer not leaking. So, you wanted me to say Ombre? Oh, shoot.
Wait.
We will be building
we
a
don't,
fuel
we
cell
don't own
in a
the
car
Ombre
we
anymore.
don't
Who
own.
owns the Ombre? Where's the Ombre?
We will
was
be
on the
building.
show last week.
Shut
How
up.
does Chris get away with this and I don't?
Because I was clever about it.
Shut
That's
up.
how.
We'll be building a fuel cell in the Ombre, which we don't own anymore because Jeff is embarrassed. Chris, tell us about fittings and crap.
Thanks. So let's talk about how to do this properly. Really, this can be very expensive.
And can you talk about insurance while you're doing it?
No,
off my
I
sheet.
can't. No way. So you got to ask for it in a subtle way. That's
All right,
the
go
whole
ahead.
key.
Tell us
Or
about
not
fittings
subtle.
and crap.
All right, so Jeff talked about where you want to put it. Now we actually have to get this thing in and plumbed and all that junk, and you have to do it properly. You need to use good quality, like Aeroquip, Russell, that kind of style fittings, AN fittings, Army, Navy, because you want it to go together well, and you want to use a braided stainless hose because it's a metal enclosure around the rubber hose, so if anything hits it, it's not going to break. So this is the right kind of stuff to use for fuel cell. Usually you want to then find out the hardest parts after this really is you don't want to just run the braided hose all the way up to the front of the car. You want to run actually a hard metal line. So you could buy aluminum tubing fuel line that you can then get a flare tool, flare it yourself so you can put AN fittings on the end. That's the nice way to do it. Gets it all up to your engine bay. You can bend the line. It's like bending brake lines. The other thing you can do is if your fuel system is the kind that like a GM car, like the Ombre, it actually has aftermarket ends that adapt the GM fuel EFI lines to AN fittings.
Braided lines, yeah, absolutely.
So that's what we're going to do in the Ombre is right at the back by the fuel tank. It has a soft line from the tank to the fuel lines for both the feed and the return. And you got some AN fittings that will adapt right to those stock lines back actually right behind the cab even. And from that up, it's all just OEM lines, which is a nice, safe way to do it if you can. But either way, you're then going to have to figure out how to get it from those lines to your fuel system. In the Civic, we got an AN fitting to banjo fitting because the Civic had the fuel line go to the fuel filter, which has a banjo fitting on. So that was the easy way for us to adapt it. And then on the return line, we had to go from AN to a 5/16 hose barb, and that let us put a soft hose on just to from the return line to the fuel for the fuel rail to the return line. So things like that are how you have to think about it. Menzel, what's up?
And I've learned this since hanging out with you guys, but I suspect some of our listeners might not. Could you explain what a banjo fitting is?
Sure. Banjo fitting is a round fitting that you put a bolt through, and the fluid actually flows through the center of the bolt and then out the side of the bolt into the gap between the bolt and the round fitting, and it's called a banjo because it kind of looks like a banjo, and that's a big round thing with a stick pointing out the side, and that's where the fuel ends up going through. So it flows through the bolt, out the side, and out the kind of the end of the banjo into the line.
And a lot of German cars love that. They love that style.
I was going to say, if you've never played with a fuel system, most of the way that a hard line brake line will enter a caliper will be a banjo fitting.
Good call, Jeff.
That's
good call.
Yeah, you're right.
So somehow you've got to figure out how to tie these things together. That's you're just going to sit there and look at what you have and figure it out. And perhaps your fuel lines are actually a size that you can cut and flare. That's okay too. But you have to think about how you're going to adapt these two things together, and it's got to be better than jam a hose over it with a couple worm drive hose clamps.
No, that is not acceptable.
Right.
No, that is, and
Right.
even if you get through tech, folks, and I get that's a lot of the short term goal for us, you're creating kind of a bad situation, not just for you on the track, but for everyone around you. So just we gamble with a lot of stuff when it comes to engines, but fuel, brakes, and fire systems, just do it right. And if you don't know how, ask someone who does.
And keep the fuel away as you're running the lines. Keep it away from anything hot and keep it outside the car. So don't run it along the center channel with the exhaust. That's a bad idea. Right? Don't run it inside the car next to you. That's a bad idea. Keep it outside. Keep it safe and protected. Keep it tucked up, maybe next to a frame rail kind of thing. Even the unibodies have those, box frame rail things. Put it up there somewhere. All right. Next thing is you've got to figure out how to get the fuel out of the tank to a pump to these lines. What we like, there's a bunch of ways to do it. If you buy the fuel cell, they come with these things called the duck foot. It's basically just this big open funnel that goes underneath the foam in one corner. These things are terrible. If you are to have less than a quarter or a third of a tank and the fuel sloshes around away from that corner, it's not going to work. It's fine for if you're running a round race and you're always turning the same way and always accelerating and you put it in that corner, then it works okay. But if you're in a road course, it's not going to work for you. So you're going to need to do something like my favorite is the Holley Hydromat. So this is a flexible mat that goes under the foam, and if any part of the mat is touching fuel, it will suck it up. It is I don't know what magic voodoo they use, but it's amazing.
Look for the YouTube video.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's dope.
Walbro also makes some pickup pucks, they are called. If you get 4 pucks and mount them in each corner of the fuel cell, this is what the heavy duty off road guys use, like their rock crawling buggies that go at all kinds of weird angles. That's the kind of stuff they use. You can look those up too. But somehow you've got to get something like that to actually pick the fuel up out of the cell if you want to actually use all of that capacity. Otherwise, you're just carrying around a bunch of gas with it you can't use. Mental.
And the downside of that to the Holley Hydromat or the fuel pucks is previous to this technology, you used to know you'd have that one corner. As soon as you started getting fuel starvation or you get the low fuel light on your display, you knew you had X amount of laps. And with the Holley Hydromat or which I found out in the Ombre or something like that, the pucks, usually you get, and Chris is about to disagree with me, so I'm not even going to finish this point because he is unfortunately smarter than I am, which is not hard to do.
Yeah. The Ombre had a completely stocked tank, of course, so that was just your fault. But
Made him come in third.
Yeah. So Matt, so you are right. Is if you get a hydromat that covers the whole bottom of your tank, you're absolutely right. Once you're dry, you are completely done.
So you get no warning, and you need to know how
you get
many
like
laps.
a half a lap.
You need to know how, and it's a good idea sometimes on practice day to kind of run that car out of gas and maybe tip the tow truck driver.
But we have figured a way around this, actually.
Aha.
You don't get the biggest hydromat you can. You get one a bit smaller. So we have one that's a little smaller. It's like an 8x15
Are you
cross.
giving away a trade 3-pedal Mafia secret?
Yes, I am.
Oh, because just like tetanus now, everybody next year is going to be doing this.
All 17 of our listeners deserve to hear this. So, you get the 8x15 plus. You mount it toward the back of the tank. If you're braking hard and turning, you'll get just enough fuel away from the mat that it'll sputter, and you can still go for a bit if because it's only like Thompson turn 1. That's where we figure out that we're running out of gas. And you can still go for a ways if you back off a little bit. Not a whole lot, but we can still, we'll still go through at least, we'll go through about 20 gallons of our 22-gallon tank easily till we get to that point. But we have a little bit of warning. So find yourself a mix.
Get your suits on. Get your suits on. I'm coming in. I got 2 laps.
We've done that.
Yeah.
Now, Chris, in our first fuel cell, I'm not sure if it was the one in the Wartburg or the first Honda. Didn't we have like this 3-door contraption that the pump sat in?
No, those things are crap.
So
we had it in the one in the first Civic, in the wagon.
The first Civic, yeah.
And it never. It was basically the hose pickup going into. It was a box. The box had 3 one-way trap doors in it, so that anywhere you'd go, the fuel would get in and wouldn't be able to get out. And then there was just basically actually a hose just sticking down in the middle of that. It never worked well enough. We never got as much stuff, uses of
The
fuel.
Hydromat was superior, but before the Hydromat, there were not a whole lot of options.
The trapdoor box or the Walbro pucks were the best. The trapdoor box were the best before that. Those boxes are expensive. Ignore those. Get the Hydromat. It's an NPT fitting on it, so you need an NPT fitting to AN adapter, AN hose end, AN hose, and then another AN hose end where it meets the bulkhead at the top of the tank. That gets you up out of the tank. Then you've got to use your AN fittings to get to a pump. What kind of pump you use is entirely up to your car. If it's a fuel-injected car, we like the Walbro 255 because they're kind of ubiquitous and easy to find fittings for and around. So
used it on my DSM.
Right, exactly.
Hashtag Deechworks. They should totally sponsor us.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, I got that on my card. Hold on a second.
Oh,
Hashtag they should sponsor us. Keep going.
Damn. So we've got you've got to get whatever pump you like that works. That's going to be fine. There are ones for in-tank pumps. I'm not a huge fan of those. I like to have the serviceability of an out of the tank pump, so I'm not going into that tank because it's a pain in the butt to open up your fuel cell. There's all those bolts all around the outside. There's all these bolts on the cover plate. It's a huge pain. I'd much rather have the fuel pump out. We've had to replace a fuel pump at the track because Bruce has 12 of them in his trailer, and
they're all used, and he just has them laying around.
They're all 80%.
They are.
You know.
They're like holiday fruitcakes. He won't do anything with them. He just keeps them in there.
Yeah, just in case. So anyway, it's been nice to be able to actually do the repair that way. So think about that. What else? So we talked about fittings, hoses, adapting a stock fuel system, pickups, pump, gauges. Basically, forget a fuel gauge. There are ways you can put a gauge in a cell. Their start at a minimum of $400, if not more, to get the pickups, the thing. But even then, like the one we had, it didn't work for crap. It was terrible. You're just better off figuring out what your fuel burn is and going from there. Like, we've been doing this for years. It's never really been a problem for us. It's nice to know, but if we can't even trust the gauge, why even bother having it and all the expense that goes along with it? So
math kids, it's still relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I have one question, but I want to say that basically, if this was all gibberish to you, do not attempt to do a fuel cell. You really need to know what you're doing to get this right. And the last question I have for Chris, because he's worked the budget a little closer on these things, what percentage, like if there was a pie chart of the job of putting in a cell, how much of it is cell, how much of it is other crap, how much of it is needed, how much of it is steel, like what's your percentages guess? Totally, obviously.
The biggest thing is, or if you're getting an FIA cell, you're in for like $1,000. If you're getting a non-FIA cell that still meets all of the other Lemons rules, like Jazz makes a bunch of those that meet all the rules but are not FIA, those are more like $400 or $500. So let's say even you're starting with a $400 or $500 cell, you're going to spend easily that much, if not more, just on lines and fittings and hoses. A Hydromat is another minimum $150. They go up to like $300 or $400 depending how big you get them. A fuel pump, probably $100. Steel, you're probably in, if you have a good steel place near you, that's probably $20 worth of steel.
You could double, basically.
But you can
without
triple or
even
quadruple.
trying.
You can quadruple the cost of the tank just in accessories. If you want to go all fancy and do dry brakes because you think that's the 2 seconds that means you're not.
Nobody thinks that except Bruce. No.
Right, exactly. if you go that way, now you're getting even further down the line. I'm just looking at the list I made for the Ombre of how many parts were needed into doing this, and it's easily 30 different parts of things that were just to get a fuel cell in an R, that is just joining up to stock fuel lines.
Yeah,
it's
that
a
wasn't
pretty
even
simple one with
lines.
no gauge. Right,
Yeah.
This is not a hard one, and it's that much that goes into it. So it's hard to do.
And another one. So you've done this. We've done this with stock tanks. We've done this with fuel cells. Is it worth it?
It depends on your car and the tank. If you've got a car with a big tank, Chrissy,
and your goals.
That's true. Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, good call. If you're okay with just running and you run 2.5 hours, or you're going to run in like E1R where you have to stop regularly, or one of those you can't change your fuel tank size, stick with the stock tank. It's so much easier. It's so much cheaper. Don't do this.
And it's safe.
Yeah. we did this originally because our Civic had zero chance of actually competing because it was so slow. The best we could do was more fuel capacity so we didn't have to stop as often. So that's why we did it there. The Ombre, we're doing it because we're trying to solve a problem that the stock tank really isn't capable of doing what we want it to do. We can't fill it quickly. We can't have it breathe. We can't have it stay secure. So that's why we're doing it in the Ombre. But something like
plastic in a terrible location.
Exactly. But something like our upcoming 300ZX, that's a 19-gallon stock tank in a nice location. So we are not going to touch that one because it's fine. Or your W124 Mercedes, don't touch that one.
No. Most Miatas are actually still running the stock fuel cells because it's high up over the rear axle, but it's in a good, secure location, and it's a good design.
Yeah, like Eyesore has said, they have tried running fuel cells and put the stock tank back in because the change in the weight distribution in the car made the handling noticeably worse. They went back to a stock fuel cell, or stock tank. So those are all things. And last I want to talk about is fillers. The easiest way is most of them on the top have either a trap door, whether it's a big open D-ring you can open or a smaller gas cap. That's just the easy way, right down to the stock, right down through into the tank. Then you can also get fillers with angled plates and necks on them that go to hoses that you can run to like a gas cap kind of thing to put somewhere else, which is fine if you have a trunk. You can put that up closer to the trunk. If you
dry brakes, a lot of series are letting them run the dry brakes too.
Yep. So if you have to run that through a passenger compartment, that's a whole other ball of worms. We're not going to get into that, but just talk to your safety people, your series about how to do that. But there are ways that you can run the filler away from the tank itself. And lastly, you got to ground all this stuff. You got to ground the center plate to the frame, ground the frame to the car. Make sure everything is grounded well. So
that's a lot of information.
It is a lot of information. Well, it's a really complicated topic, and it's only because we've done it on, we did it on the Wartburg, we did it on the first Civic, we did it on the second Civic. We have played with them on other people's cars that have had issues. Now we're doing it in the Ombre.
We welded on a live fuel tank at our second Lemons race.
Yeah.
Don't tell people that. What?
It wasn't a live fuel tank.
It wasn't ours.
It was that.
It was that Fiat. That Fiat's still running, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But still, we did it. I mean, we didn't do it.
It sounds like a great time to say, we need a safety tip.
Yeah.
Is there anyone out there?
We had so many safety tips, though.
I know. It's been a safety-filled episode, but I think we also are going to discuss some safety tips. Chrissy, can we have just the tip tonight?
Yay! Just the tip!
I was trying to do it low-key without a yell. But...
She complains when we do it, but when we don't do it, she does it on her own.
All right.
Yep. It happened.
No. Stop.
Right,
hers was so much better.
Okay. It's getting cold. Winter race car prep, but I think it's just winter car prep because you don't want to be stranded and stuff. Okay, so for the race car, make sure your water is all drained from your race car. If you haven't done this, it's been really super cold here already. You might be in trouble, so make sure you do it tomorrow. Go out and figure it out. Or tonight. It depends on what hour you're listening to this.
Unless you want to drive your RV to work every day.
Yes. Make sure you bring your wheels and tires into a climate controlled environment. We have all of ours in our basement, a bunch of ours in the basement. Not all of them live there. And then also just thinking about your daily, make sure that you have checked your tire pressures on your daily.
Yes. No, didn't do it.
You should, because we checked them on my car right after we used this safety tip last time we were talking about it, and they were low. So we made sure.
Why do you hate freedom, Jeff?
I don't know.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
That's right.
Hence, we just talked about burning. So, also make sure you add some windshield wiper fluid. It's cheap. It's at gas stations. Just pick some up when you walk by and make sure you add it, because it sucks when you don't have it. And then it also sucks if your stupid car doesn't have a light to tell you that it's low, and then you find out it's low, and then you scrape it all over your windshield. That makes me so mad. Yes, mental.
So Southern Boy back in the early 90s moved from Mississippi to...
Wait, let me get my side story goes nowhere card. On
yes!
Moved from Mississippi to Nebraska, and I did not know that there was such a thing as the antifreeze windshield washer fluid.
Oh, good call.
And I also didn't have the windshield washer fluid light, and when snow starts to melt, your windshield becomes brown mud.
Totally.
And I had to learn all of this the very, very hard way. So yes, get good and then keep an extra bottle of it in the car because it never runs out when you're right around the block from home. It runs out when you are halfway down the freeway and can't see anymore.
Totally.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I've definitely had my tank freeze up as a youngin' and didn't know why. So then I just bought a gallon, and once in a while I'd stop and just pour some on the windshield and wipe it off.
Okay, that's not safe.
I have that.
Don't do that.
So my 73 International Scout that I commuted back and forth from Pittsburgh to Indiana, Pennsylvania, the bottle was broken years prior. And it would like get all, like salty up there because it snowed like the dickens. I would just pull over every now and then and grab an ice ball and rub it on the windshield.
I think you told us this before.
I've
And
done
I'm pretty
that
sure
too.
this is really bad. Okay. Along with
So
that.
listen to Chrissy.
wipers?
Don't listen to us. Do what Chrissy says.
So change your wipers. I'm sure one of them has been scraping a little bit, and it's going to get worse. And just start out with the season fresh with your wipers. Open a Rock Auto order right now. Type. Rock Auto. Add it. You'll be happy later.
And they might send you an entire case instead of just a pair like they did for my wife's Subaru.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
Go
so if
mental.
anyone needs a 22-inch wiper blade, Jeff has them all.
Oh,
Every time we've had like our first sleet or snow, that's when I notice that we need wipers, and I always just immediately, because I'm too old to start dying stupid, so I always just pull right in and buy a new pair of wiper blades, and the trash can in front of the O'Reilly's is always
Filled
full
with
of
wiper
wiper
blades.
That's
blades.
fantastic. Be careful driving too. That's it.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the order before we go on?
I feel like this was a good one. This is one.
It's a
of
good
those-
episode.
We're going to get
Well,
some
it
good
was-
feedback on this
Let's
one.
pat ourselves on the back.
It wasn't a funny one. It was an informative, safe
Serious.
episode.
And if you think it was an informative
I-
one, for God's sakes, go to iTunes and leave us a review, because we have none. We have none of the reviews on iTunes. We have great reviews on Facebook. We have none. No, we got the one review on iTunes.
We have a couple iTunes reviews, but it's been a very long time. So that is a good time to say join us next week when we're going to be talking to Bill Fisher and the Bill Fisher clan. Remember,
Check
he
that
was
off on your box if
Yes.
you have it in
Oh,
your bingo
wait.
card.
Hold on, I gotta stop. Open my bingo card. Bill. Bam. Let me reopen my show notes. Whoops.
You know,
Oh,
Jeff, if you had a computer, you could have multiple.
I have a
windows
computer.
open
I'm
right
Skyping
now.
on it, where we'll be talking. Bill was on episode 26. We'll leave the link in the show notes. Bill is now 3.5 races into his inaugural racing season.
No, he's 3.5 race cars.
Race cars into
That
his
too,
inaugural
yeah.
racing season with his family. So we're going to have him back to talk about what he's learned, what we warned him about, what he wishes we would have warned him about. We might also ask him where he got the idea for having his new podcast and let him plug his new podcast, which, by the way, I have heard several of the episodes. I don't know if
Has
it's
anyone
not.
actually asked Bill if he's available for next week?
I have, yes. He
Oh,
is.
okay,
We
good.
can-
Just checking, because
we
otherwise
talk
he's
about
just
that
going to hear
off
it.
the
He's
air.
gonna hear it tomorrow.
He's too busy recording his
It'll go
podcast. He's like,
20
I do not
days
have
before we went
time for those plebes. I'm famous now. I have my own podcast.
No, he's still very interested in coming on our podcast to plug his podcast. Let's be honest, it probably has more listeners than us.
So I also added that it's going to be right before Thanksgiving, so we might talk about what we're thankful for. Maybe we can think about that.
Absolutely, that is a great
And
idea.
talk about some food. That's it.
Awesome. Going to
All
the,
right.
going
Jeff,
to the music. Here it is. Bring
Whoa.
it in.
does
I know.
Jeff has technical problems on here somewhere? No.
Actually, Jeff's music doesn't work is one of the squares.
Okay, good.
Thank you for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and bingo cards, because everyone can be a racer, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, do like Mental says, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. Even if you hated us, give us 5 stars and tell us why. If you have any questions or want to give us some show ideas, drop a comment on our Facebook page, Everyone Racers, or email us, everyone.racers@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, everything else, everyone.racers. Thanks, and until next week, keep the shiny side up, even if you have to blow it up to get it there, but keep the wheels down.